So guys, life update. Guess what guys? I am engaged. Yes y'all, so I got engaged. My life has changed in so many ways. But yes y'all, he's a fiance. So yes y'all, I am a fiance. My fiance proposed to me 3 weeks ago back in Dallas. So we ended up taking a trip to Dallas, but I will talk more about that in a second y'all. I'm super excited just to be back on camera. Definitely feeling excited just to share what God has been doing in my life as it relates to my love life, something that I have really have struggled with for so long, y'all. Waiting on God. Y'all know, all my single sisters out there, y'all know how hard it can be to really trust God when it comes to bringing your kingdom spouse. And so today I want to talk to y'all just about how I met the one, my fiance. He is such a blessing, such a gift from God, and I have so much that I want to share with you all, especially for my single sisters, because I know it gets hard. I know waiting on God is not always easy. So let's jump right in. All right guys, so the first thing I want to tell you guys, I want to bring some encouragement. Let God write your love story. I cannot tell y'all that before I met my now fiance, how many times I prayed and how many years I prayed, God, please bring the right person into my life, because I knew I desired marriage. I knew that God gave me that desire. And so when I tell y'all that I was out here in these streets, I mean, I was out here in these streets. Like, I was dating a lot, and I had definitely met some really nice guys, but again, I believe I wasn't ready, and I'll talk more about that. But it wasn't God's timing. And but all of that to say, you know, I still left a lot of those relationships very broken, very disappointed, and so many times I would cry out to God, like, what's wrong with me, God? Like, why am I not meeting the right person? You know, I am 33 now, but I was even in my, you know, late 20s and even early 30s when I first turned 30. I was in a serious relationship, and I thought that that person was gonna be the one. And I will have to do a different video about that. But I knew that, one, I didn't have the peace I have now, but I really thought that that person was going to be the one. And so when it didn't work out, I was so heartbroken, y'all. So heartbroken. You know, I had made a commitment to God to really just obey him in terms of waiting until marriage for sex. And so even with that, you know, that made my chances of meeting someone, for me, in my eyes, you know, very limited. And I was like, okay guys, come on now, God. You know, a lot of these guys are not trying to wait. Let's just keep it real. But honestly, it was very hard for me. I can't even just blame them. I struggle with it. Y'all can see my other videos, you know, about how God delivered me from sexual sin. But I want to tell y'all that whatever God has promised you, it's going to come to pass. And so if you desire marriage, sis, let me tell you something. Wait on God, because God will bring the right person. But this is the key. This is the key, guys. You have to let God bring that person. So when God writes your love story, I want to tell y'all, like, you have to make sure that you are not taking matters into your own hands. So I would say key number one is obedience. Whatever God is telling you to do, it could be, you know, stop talking or entertaining people who he's told you are not your spouse, right? Because a lot of us, we want the attention from a man because we have deep-rooted issues inside of us that God is trying to deliver us from. So God is telling us to let go of those relationships because he wants us to come spend time with him so that he can work on us from the inside out, so that when he brings the right person, we are ready. A lot of us are going on dates, we're entertaining people, giving out our numbers just for a free meal, if we can be honest. Some people just want to have a date for the free meal. Maybe you like the companionship, but God is really wanting you to trust him. And so if he's asking you to do something, be obedient. I don't know what that looks like for you, but for me, it was definitely getting rid of the guys who I was talking to, in terms of cutting them off cold turkey. Okay, so God might be telling you that, or you may need to get out more. Honestly, some of y'all are in the house too much, and so you really need to expand your life. You know, you can't just wait for a man to come and sweep you off your feet. Like, you need to be living. And I'm not saying just go to the club, do all these things turning up. I mean, you can go out to eat with your friends. You can go and, you know, go for a walk outside, go for a jog. For me, I used to go out for walks. I used to take myself to the mall. I would go out to dinner by myself. And so those are all things that I believe are part of God leading me to really find contentment in who I was in him, and then also who I, you know, that I could actually be alone and enjoy it. And so that's number one, y'all. I would say be obedient. It looks different for everybody else. So if God's telling you to cut somebody off, or you know, this relationship is not going anywhere, you could be hindering your blessing. So that is a big one. Also, if you're not dating, maybe you're just in the house too much, like you need to expand your life. You need to get outside. Like, I'm sorry, sis, bruh, you need to get outside, like get to know people, not just in a romantic way, but start getting to know people, because as you meet people, like, you don't know, that person could be your spouse. You could literally be sitting next to your spouse. So get outside your comfort zone, meet people, definitely do whatever God is telling you to do. But I want to tell y'all right now, like, God will bring that person. So let me get more into how me and my fiance met, because I think that is what God is leading me to share. So, all right, y'all. So me and Joe, my fiance, met back in February of this year, 2022. Y'all, when I tell y'all God, let me tell y'all, don't sleep on God, because let me tell y'all, God had just told me to stop talking to different people, to get quiet before him. And as I was spending time with God, he was already telling me before I met Joe that I was going to meet my spouse. So that is one part. But let's get back into how we met. So Joe actually has a cousin who was in DC interning on Capitol Hill. She was in DC for a semester. And her and I happened to go to the same church. Well, little do y'all know, so I had just actually moved back to DC a few months prior, and I had really been praying to God, like, Lord, what church should I go to? I'm not sure which church to go to. And God was like, okay, I really want you to go to this church. I won't say the name because I want to be discreet with certain things. So God led me to go to this church. Here I am, you know, just really wanting to get community, because I was very much alone. You know, a lot of people who I had known before when I lived in DC had left. So I was really out there by myself, y'all. And I was like, listen, I'm about to be in these streets, God. I need you to bring community so I can really get myself around the right people, because I'm trying to really walk this walk, and it's not easy being alone. So God led me to a specific church, which, mind you, I personally, it wasn't my first preference in terms of the church I wanted to go to. There was another church in the area that I really wanted to go to. But y'all, this is the thing about God, he's in the details. He told me to go to this church here. And so I go to the church, me and her connect instantly, because she's like, I want to be an attorney, I want to be a lawyer. And I, being an attorney, always love to mentor younger women or younger people who want to be a lawyer, especially if they're people of color, you know, black, brown, all of us, you know, minorities, because it is definitely not easy. We're like 5% of all lawyers are black. So side note there. But anyways, y'all, so, and I love that she's a Christian, you know, especially being a Christian, being an attorney, like two things that, you know, I believe God was showing me, okay, you guys have a lot in common. So I kind of took her under my wings. I feel like God was just telling me, like, she's from a small town. She needs you to kind of mentor her. And so me and her met literally taking an Uber from the church, y'all, and just sharing an Uber. We ended up connecting, exchanging numbers, and just became, you know, a mentor-mentee-ship type of thing. Well, little unbeknownst to me, my fiance comes up for a weekend from DC to DC. He lives in like southern part of Virginia, about 3 hours away. So unbeknownst to me, he is in town for that weekend and visiting his cousin, because he knows that she's interning, and also he had a whole nother business matter that he was just in town for. So she tells me that Sunday, because we normally sit together in church, she's like, oh, my cousin is coming this Sunday, can you save us a seat? I said, sure, no problem, I can save you guys a seat. So essentially I saved them a seat, not knowing that this cousin who was coming to church would be my now fiance. But I'm gonna get to that later, y'all. So they come to church. You know, I'm really just focused on God, because God, when I tell y'all I was in a process, I had just come off of a fast. I have been at the altar that day, like boo-hooing and everything. So I ended up meeting them. I ended up not being able to sit next to them because it was just too much going on. And so they sat somewhere else, but we were all in church service together. Y'all, when I tell y'all God moved in that service, and that's a whole nother thing, but I had just been fighting so much spiritual attacks, because God, I believe, was really taking me to that next level, but it felt very lonely. And that's a word too for somebody, because a lot of times when God has you in isolation, it's because he's taking you into something that you've never been in before. Like I can't even tell y'all the attacks I was feeling, because I was literally, I stopped going out, I stopped hanging out with a lot of people, and I was just like, I'm just alone in my apartment, just me and God. And little did I know God was preparing me for a lot of things. He was preparing me to just really hear from him. He was preparing me, sanctifying me so that I could be in position to receive that blessing. Okay, so some of y'all need to allow God to put you in that little incubator and let him do his work in you. But that's a whole nother word. So that Sunday, I was bawling my eyes out because I was like, God, I feel like I keep having to give up so much for you, and it's hard, you know? But I got delivered too, because in that moment, God met me there at the altar. And so that's what happened at church that day. So I ended up not sitting next to them, but soon after church, she says, hey, you know, we wanted to go get a bite to eat after church. We're going out to dinner. Would you like to come with us? I said, you know, I don't have any plans. Sure, I would love to come with you all, go to dinner, and it'll be cool. Didn't think nothing of it, y'all. Okay, so he drives. This is her cousin, who's now my fiance. He ends up driving us. And we get to the restaurant. There's a little bit of downtime, so there was a little bit of wait. Y'all know how church folk do after church. Everybody want to go get something to eat. Okay, so we're in DC, y'all know. But anyway, so we go out to eat, and I am just like still out of it, y'all. Like I said, when I tell y'all the Holy Spirit had hit me that service, I mean, my makeup was off. I had been crying. I wasn't even thinking anything about trying to get to know anybody. I'm just in my own little zone, really. If anybody know me, sometimes I be in my own zone regardless, so. But anyways, definitely on this particular day, I was out of it. And so he and I were just talking casually. You know, he told me he had a mentorship program, a nonprofit that mentors you and does scholarships. And he was very much like, okay. I was very much like, okay, this what's up. You know, I love to see people who give back and who sow into kids. You know, I know where I would have been had nobody come and, you know, mentor me. And then he gave me kind of like snippets of his testimony and how he was as a youth, and how him having the right mentors and people in his life really shaped him into being who he was called to be. And so I was like, okay. So he told me more about his foundation, and then we started talking about business. We were talking about like some properties that he had, and I told him that I'm an attorney who does trust and wills. And so I said, you know, I do trust, and I would love to help you set up a trust to protect your assets. And so we exchanged numbers just from me thinking, okay, this could be a potential client. Woo, y'all. Look at God. Let me tell y'all about God. God is so, ooh, y'all, he knows, he's so good because he knows what he was doing. I was not thinking anything about it. Now, I remember though at the restaurant, he loves taking pictures. So he was like, oh, let's get pictures, you know, yada, yada, yada. So when I went to take a picture with him, I was like, ooh, this man is tall. And I just felt like he was so strong. And you know, honestly, y'all, that was one thing that stood out. Is like, I was very, I don't know. It's like, I looked at him and I was like, wow, he's very strong, very tall. And that's something that I've always desired, is someone who is like very like tall and like can protect me, because I'm a little woman, you know, I'm 5'2", and I always wanted to be with a man who's tall. So I didn't really care about height, but at the same time, it was a desire, you know, of mine, which I didn't even know. God actually revealed that to me. Tall and kind of husky, and so he hugged me and I was like, oh wow. And then I took a picture next to him. I was like, okay. So I felt a little something there, but nothing too crazy. Again, y'all, this is the first day that we had ever met. So we wrap up dinner, he drives me back to my apartment, he takes his cousin home, and me and him had exchanged numbers, and that was about it. So he drops me off, and only thing, and I will tell y'all this, and you know, and you gotta be careful with this, because you just don't wanna, some people can think they're hearing God and it not be God, but in this moment, I believe the Holy Spirit said, that's your husband. And I was like, okay. And then let me tell you something, the reason why I knew the thought came is because, again, I was so filled with the Holy Spirit just from the church service where I had really felt God just move. But anyways, y'all, I feel like I heard God say, this is your husband, but I was like very careful, because child, let me tell y'all, I thought I heard that so many times before. I was like, God, I don't even know. I can't play around with this, because I thought other people were my husband, and they clearly was not sent from God. So they were a distraction, and they were not God's best for me. But anyways, so I was very careful with that word, even though I feel like God did say, this is your husband. Okay, so I go home and I'm good. I'm in my apartment, I'm good. And so we exchanged numbers. The next day, he texted me and said, hey, I'm coming back to DC this weekend. What are you doing? And I was like, wow, that's cool. I was kind of excited because his cousin was there, right? So he's like, yeah, I'm thinking about, you know, the three of us could all go to a soccer game. Now, y'all, I am not into sports. I don't like any type of sports. Like, I'm not one of the people that's like, yay, let's go. Like, when I tell y'all, this time when he brought up sports and soccer, I was like, yeah, sure. I can't wait to go. I was like, I literally, he told me I'd text back right away, y'all, but I don't think so. But he says I'd text back right away. And I probably did, because I was truly excited, because I was like, wow. Okay, mind y'all, I did nothing to meet this man. I literally just went to church where I always go, and God introduced us through his cousin. And that's a word in of itself. But y'all, again, let God do what he's gonna do, because God works supernaturally. He doesn't need you to go out and try to find your spouse. God says he that finds a wife finds a good thing. So you, as a woman, you need to be in a position to be found, be prepared, but it's not up to you to go find that person, okay? So let me just, and I hope my camera don't cut off. Okay, y'all. So he comes back up to DC that weekend. We go to a soccer game, okay? So we go to the soccer game, and I'm getting to talk to him more and more. He's telling me, you know, just about different things. You know, he has 2 daughters, okay? He has a family. He has 2 girls. And I was like, okay. And I saw pictures of him and the kids. I was like, oh my gosh, you seem like a really good dad. And we're just talking, and he's telling me how he was in the military and all these things. I'm just like more and more listening to him. And I just feel like there was like a peace. You know, he was such a man who, you know, just when he spoke, for me, I feel like he's very confident. I could tell that he was just a man who was very patient, very kind, very just low-key, like he's not gonna brag, he's not gonna tell you all things he's done. Like, he's just so content and confident, and I love that. That was something that really caught me off guard. You know, there was just such a peace about him, and I was like, okay, who is this man? Okay, who is this man? And so we got to talk more. I learned more about him that weekend than I, you know, ever had. And so he tells me, you know, eventually we break the ice, and we're just like, I'm like, wow, what is God doing? Both of us are like, what is God doing? Because we started to instantly, this is the second time that we met, y'all. We instantly felt like God was in this. Like, we had this attraction and this chemistry that was just unspeakable. And it was crazy because he was like telling me, man, like, I really haven't been looking for love. I haven't been interested even trying to date, because I'm so focused on my foundation, which is his purpose. Like, what God called him to do was to have this nonprofit, his foundation that gives back to youth and mentors them and takes them on scholarship, and gives them scholarships, takes them on college tours. And so he was like, you know, I really have not even been looking for love. I have not even been dating. And he also told me, you know, I want to know, like, how can I help you with your purpose? I just want to help you with your purpose. And y'all, when he said them words, because I'm telling you, I've always known God has had a purpose and plan for my life, but I've always said, God, you know, I know some of that is going to come when I meet my spouse, because that's what God brings two people together for, is to advance his kingdom. And so I knew that there was things I had already accomplished and done, but I said, God, I know there's more from when I meet my spouse. So when he said that, I knew he wasn't coming to take from me. He was coming to give and to support and uplift the vision and plan that God had already designated for my life, okay? So that was very important. Like, it was not superficial, right? I done met people and everything looks good on paper, but I'm just not able to get to those deeper conversations, those deeper things as far as purpose. You know, I could tell he was a man who wasn't materialistic. Like, he really was about his father's business. And that was something that also stood out to me about him. But I'll tell you guys more about how I knew he was the one, or how I believe God had brought us together. So, guys, from that weekend, a second time that we met, it was just every weekend. He was coming to DC to visit me, drive 3 hours to DC. We would hang out every weekend. We ended up traveling together, like going to Atlanta, going to Miami. We took our first cruise to Mexico. I had never been on a cruise, guys. When I tell y'all, it's like I have been living my life just literally working, trying to serve God, and just to really just be a servant and do what God had called me to do. But I really can't say I was always living. I enjoyed my life, yes, but there was something that was missing. Fun, guys. Like, sometimes, like, yes, God is a God of order, and he wants you to work and work hard and be everything he's called you to do, but I was not really having fun in my life. I can say I was having fun in certain moments, but when I tell y'all, this man came and literally brought me out of my comfort zone, like traveling all the time and just helping me understand, like, there's so much more to life than this. Like adventure. He brought adventure to my life, and we brought that to each other because I'm also a very naturally adventurous person. So from the first moment that we met, guys, in February, it has been about 8 months, 7 or 8 months, and God has just blown my mind. Like we've been to 19 different places. We've been to Philly, Indiana, where my family is, Philly, where I also grew up. We've been to Miami. We took a cruise, excuse me guys, to Mexico. We went down to Dallas to visit his cousins. We went to Jamaica for my brother's wedding. We went to Georgia, where he's from. We went to Savannah, Atlanta, parts of Georgia. We've been to Memphis to visit my dad. Like we have traveled, guys. And I tell y'all, God has just blown my mind through this relationship, and we've had so many adventures in such a short time. Like it hasn't even been a whole year yet, and we've just done so much. And so that's another reason why I knew it was God, because these were the things that I prayed for, y'all. I prayed for someone who didn't just love to work but wanted to enjoy life, you know, to really see all that life has. And so that was kind of how we met, guys. Just from there, we just continuously saw each other every weekend. We hung out, we spent a lot of time together, and you know, he really became my best friend because we just spent so much time together, and there was just such a peace. Again, definitely a peace, and I just want to kind of get to kind of a little bit how I knew he was the one. So give me a moment, y'all. I'm just gonna look at my notes because I want to make sure I don't miss anything. All right, guys, so how did I know he was the one? So yeah, he has met my parents.